Digital romance TV.
Hey folks, how are you? It's Michael Fiore and Nora Blake, and today we're talking about 3 tips to keep sex hot after marriage.
You mean like after you're divorced?
Well, actually, after you're divorced, the sex will definitely be hot again because it'll be with new people.
You mean after you get married? Yeah.
This is a serious problem. This is a very, very serious problem, both when people get married and when people have kids.
Yep.
Right? And so often we hear about people who are like, oh, we got married, we were in love, everything was great, and then as soon as, the old cliche, as soon as she got a ring on her finger, the whole thing dried up like the Sahara.
I think this is one of our things.
Yeah.
I think the main thing that makes that happen is that people look at marriage as some sort of destination instead of part of a journey they're on together.
Yep.
As soon as something is the be-all, end-all, we have to get here, and then poof, we're done. You stop working on anything, and if you consider it that huge of a final chapter or ending place where you're trying to get to, you're putting yourself you're setting yourself up for failure.
So often people see marriage as like, well, that's what I was working towards the entire time, and there's almost this unconscious idea that you get married and everything's frozen then, right?
Yeah,
exactly
we'll capture ourselves in this place.
The amber of marriage, as it were. I went to a business training thing years ago by this guy named Dan Sullivan, and he talked about always make your future bigger than your past.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And he was talking about how he has goals and plans for things when he's 120 years old. Now, is he actually going to live that long?
God, I hope not.
No, but he's in his 60s, I think, and he's a very active person. He's doing a lot of work, writing books, doing things like that. And it's the same thing with marriage. You should see marriage not as it's not Disney World. It's a gas station on the way to Disney World.
Yes.
Right? You're refueling for the next part of that.
But
journey.
I think that's part of, in our society that we make weddings this huge thing, both financially and emotionally, and that it's a giant step. And so after that, of course, everything after that is a letdown.
Well, and also, there's actually stats that show the less you spend on your wedding, the more likely your marriage is going to succeed. And I think they said something like people that spend, I think it's $5,000. If they spend $5,000 or less on a wedding, they are way more likely to have a successful long-term marriage than people who spend 20 grand, 30 grand, etc. And I think that's because of the expectations that go along with it and the pageantry. And people that aren't spending as much, they're thinking, I love you and I want to keep evolving with you.
Right.
Right? As opposed to, I want to memorialize that at this moment we love each other so much. Number 2, kind of a combination from the two of us, is consciously sexualizing your partner and making time to be sexual. What do you mean by that?
Well, mine was the making time. I think you have to continue to find attraction for your partner, and then also sometimes if you have children, if you have a busy schedule, you have to, whether it's a date night or it's an actual sex on the calendar in the rough times.
Literally you lay the calendar on the table and you have sex on it.
Where you schedule time to be together intimately.
It's an
and it doesn't,
calendar.
I think the best way that's done is where you're not we're gonna be at this time and then we're gonna be naked and then you're gonna be inside of me at blah blah blah.
You better have an erection by 8:45, buddy.
It's intimate time, right? There's no expectations, especially as you get older and erectile dysfunction becomes a thing, or women are feeling less attractive, where it's literally just maybe being naked together, scheduling time to hold each other and be in bed together naked or on top of the covers and just touching each other or making out, making out time.
Making out is great.
Anything that's bringing you closer and it's time where you're just focusing on each other.
And actually, to that point, Nora, I think that's really good, but intimacy actually can fall away even for couples that are having a lot of sex.
Absolutely.
Right? Because a lot of times, especially when people are really busy, you're married, you got kids, whatever else, you're like, okay, we're going to have sex tonight. And there's just I want to get my dick in you as soon as I can. And you're fucking away. And neither of you is really there.
Yeah.
You're not making eye contact. I'm a big fan, by the way, if you want to keep intimacy, talking to each other while you're having sex. Dirty talk or otherwise, telling stories can be very, very powerful. I know you don't like it, but for a lot of people they do. Consciously sexualizing, what I mean by that is making yourself stop to appreciate your partner.
Yeah.
On a purely sexual level.
Yeah.
Right? Not on they're the person that I put on my sweatpants and watch CSI with, but
right.
I really like his ass, or I really like her boobs, or whatever else.
Yeah.
I hate the word boobs. But taking the time, because people ask sometimes, they're like, well, how could Ben Affleck cheat on Jennifer Garner? She's such a beautiful woman. Well, because he's been with her for 15 years and he forgot in a weird sort of way, right? The third one that we have here is actually something I got from a great book. I forget the name of the author, but it's called Mating in Captivity. You should look it up. It's really quite good. And it talks about essentially how to keep sex good in marriage and why it isn't so often. And it's by this wonderful sex therapist, really interesting, intelligent woman. I wish I remembered her name. But she talks about this concept called the other, right? And or the third, I think it was, actually, not the other, the third. And the idea is that so often in relationships, married or otherwise, we feel like, okay, we're together now. All of my sexuality has to come from you, right? I'm only supposed to be appreciated by you. I'm only supposed to be flirty with you in any way. If I flirt with anybody else, that I'm being, wrong to my marriage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's bullshit.
Yep.
The people that have the most successful long-term relationships with hot sexuality are not people who completely close themselves off from the outside world sexually. For guys particularly, having a wife or a girlfriend or whatever else and knowing that she is wanted by other men can be very, very powerful. It can actually help you feel attracted to her again. And it's the same thing for women. I've heard many times, this is actually why occasionally, sometimes, an affair can actually be good for a marriage in a weird sort of way. I'm not saying you should go have an affair to fix your marriage. It's not the best way to do it. But there are times when somebody cheats and it actually reawakens the other partner to like, wow, she's really hot.
In the same way that after you've broken up sex, like, because you find that, like, oh, right,
yes.
that person's fucking, yeah.
I remember now because they're not the person I have and it's not boring anymore. But all of that kind of thing. And again, there's levels of where people go with that. There are people who successfully go on to occasionally have dalliances outside the marriage or whatever else it's going to be. But you need to find a way to have sexual energy coming into your relationship.
Right.
If it's just coming from the two of you, that's a limited amount, right?
Yep.
But you can bring it from the outside world and have that fuel what you have between the two of you. So there you go. 3 tips for having hot, wonderful, great fucking sex after marriage. If you have some tips for how you keep your relationship hot after marriage, then go ahead and leave them down below. And then go to digitalromance.tv for more videos. Bye-bye.
If you've got a cell phone in your pocket or purse right now, then you've got everything you need to create incredible romance and passion with the man or woman in your life at the push of a button. Go to digitalromance.tv/TRB to see Michael Fiore make an entire audience of women in the Rachel Ray Show swoon and learn how to use tiny little text messages to have the relationship of your dreams.